and welcome back to Married with Comics for our special interview with the one and only writer of Detonator, the Kickstarter that we had just reviewed. And thank you so much for joining us, James. This has been an extraordinary experience, of course. But, my first curiosity was, what was the first comic book that really hooked you or got you into comic books?
Well, first up, thanks for having me. And I'd say that there are two answers to that question because I got into comics pretty seriously when I was at the same time every millennial did, which is when you saw Spider-Man by Sam Raimi and then you walked into the comic store next door and got Ultimate Spider-Man 1. And it was just such a perfect entry point and a great story by Bendis. And I really got hooked on that and Astonishing X-Men by Whedon around that time. And but then I kind of just fell off for one reason or another. And then when I went to college, I got hooked on two books, and they're the reason that I spend way too much money on comics to this day. It would be American Vampire by Scott Snyder.
Yes.
I would travel. I don't know why I did this in particular, but I would walk, when I could have taken the train, I would walk from my college to Forbidden Planet every Wednesday to get the latest issue. So good. And also Brian K. Vaughan's Why the Last Man. They were the two stories that got me hooked again and ever since.
Awesome. Very, very cool. But how did you go from, reading all these amazing stories to then wanting to write them? Did you have experience with writing before this?
Not really. I was just always a nerdy daydreaming kid. And eventually I went from daydreaming to nerding out with my friends, just chatting about what we would do with this superhero or with this character from whatever we were watching. And that slowly turned into us as we got older, like hanging out in bars, and in between rounds, we'd be talking about what stories we would write. And I had this idea for Detonator brewing for a long time. And I gotta say, I feel like usually positive reinforcement is what encourages writers to write.
Yes.
But for me, I just kept getting so mad at myself for talking about the story without writing it that one day my frustration with myself just pushed me to sit down at this computer and type away. And now I just love it. I really enjoy writing stories.
So you kind of touched on how you came up with the story of Detonator there. Let me ask you this. Do you have a best friend that would kind of go to the same lengths for you that Detonator does for his best friend in the story? Like, was that based on sort of somebody in that group that got together with you in the bars?
So I have plenty of great friends. I will say that my friends James and Peter, who it's confusing. I'm not talking about like a split personality I have. I just my best childhood friend James. I grew up with him, and we just happen to have the same name. He has always been there for me, and even though he lives in Florida and I live in New York, we always stay in touch. And if anything ever happens, we always have each other's back, to the point where he had a bit of a crisis going on a few years ago. And even though I was in the middle of going into work in Manhattan, as soon as he told me something wrong was happening, I was like, all right, I guess I'm going on a plane. Got to go help out my boy. But thankfully, haven't had to endure anything too anywhere near as brutal as depicted in Detonator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Laura and I both really loved about Detonator as well, besides the characters and how they related, was the artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous. We were wondering, had you worked with Mr. Zamudio before, Carlos, or was this a first time thing?
No, this was a first time thing. I just I've never written a comic before, and when you go into a store, you want to read something that looks gorgeous. So I just wanted to make sure that if Detonator failed, that it wasn't because of the art. And I reached out to a few artists, and my friend Mary, who it's kind of like my comic book mentor. She and I, we used to play D&D all the time. And I was telling her I was thinking of writing comics. She went to art school and she put me in touch with Carlos's wife, AC Zamudio, who actually does like penciling and inking. I believe it may just be penciling for Cullen Bunn's book, Shadow Roads. And we were actually talking about working on Detonator together, but she was busy working with Cullen. So she recommended her husband to me, and we've been working on it ever since. Comics bring people together, judging from your YouTube channel and the two of them.
Exactly. That's really cool. We've talked a little bit, in our video about the Kickstarter that's coming out.
Right.
So it's going to be the end of July, but what can people expect from the Kickstarter?
So I have a pretty hard date. I actually I set one hard date prior, but I'm pretty committed to this one. So I will say that I believe that the date we're going with is July 20th. This in about like a week and a few days.
Yeah.
And you can expect a lot of cool stuff when it launches. I got 5 variant covers done, and you can purchase one or any of them, and they're done by people I've worked with or people I really admire. Like I don't know if you guys are into video games at all, but have you guys played The Last of Us 2?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, in the game, you can, in between murdering a million people, you can collect a bunch of trading cards of fictional superpowered people. And the artist who did all those, Paul Reinwand, he did a cover for me. This guy, Doali, he worked with like Pixar and Sony. He does the, if you watch The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, his art is what you see when you go to watch it. He did a cover. I got a lot of really cool covers done. I also have an add-on that's limited where you can have Carlos do an ink drawing for you of whatever you want, as long as it's a simple ink drawing. So it could be Detonator related. If you want to just see if you have a pet and you want to see him drawn, you can do that. It could literally be anything. And outside of that, we have some stretch goals where I'm going to do a Detonator pin, stickers, and AC, his wife, is going to do trading cards of Detonator characters. But this is my, thank you. But this is our first Kickstarter, and I kind of want to just let the book speak for itself, so I don't want to bog people down with a million options. So that's all we got so far.
Which, I mean, that's all really.
Yeah.
So obviously, we got the preview of the first 3 issues, but how many are there going to be in? Is it like the first kind of story arc, and do the characters kind of continue beyond that first story arc, or is this going to be like the conclusion of Detonator?
They all die. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's it, folks.
Yep. See you later. No, so it's a 7-issue miniseries. The 4th issue is currently in production, and I'd say that the ending is pretty conclusive, but at the same time, there's definitely a lot to play with if Carlos and I had free schedules and we're both up for the project. But I gotta say, obviously I'm biased because I'm writing it, but I'm really happy with how it ends. And I'd need a lot of convincing to come back, even though it's a fun status quo at the end.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. No spoilers.
So is the Kickstarter is just for the 7 single issues, right?
So the Kickstarter is for the first 3 issues, and then if that does well, then I'll do a Kickstarter for either the next few issues, or if we kick butt and reach a lot of our stretch goals, 2 of which are issues 4 and 5, I'll just do one for the entire trade, and I'll do a trade paperback of the entire series.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Really excited for it.
So since Detonator seems to kind of have a satisfactory conclusion on it, you mentioned on your website that you're working on a fantasy series. Tell us about that.
I was going to play it close to the chest, and I haven't been really telling people a lot, but I am production, we're almost on the pre-production, and production on the first issue begins in a month. So I might as well just spill some beans. It's going to be very different from Detonator. We're like, Detonator is like really punk rock and really fast paced, where there's like even in between every like small moment there's another explosion or someone getting their brains blown out. This one is going to be I'd say it's going to be a little more melancholy and somber. And if I was to describe it, I'd say take Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke and the manga. I don't know if you guys have read it. It's called Vagabond, and some Mad Max. Put them in a blender, and this is what you'd get.
Okay.
Wow.
It's called Prince Nobody, and it follows a young man who's been told his whole life that he's a child of destiny and a prince, and he's been showered with affection and has never wanted for anything. And because of that, unlike all these other chosen ones like Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker, insert any of the billion, he's told he's destined for greatness. So he just sits on his ass all day and drinks and parties. And he kind of grows up with no skills, and he kind of feels like he's wasted his life. And he learns that he's actually not destined for anything. And after a traumatic and brutal accident, he has to desperately struggle to find a way to live a fulfilling life where he can contribute to society. And yeah.
Okay, I'm hooked. I'm in. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. And another thing, not to talk too much about this side project, it's also inspired kind of by, have you guys read the comics Headlopper or Ultra Mega?
Ultra Mega.
Ultra Mega.
Yes.
Yeah, so I really enjoy how both of those series have like between 40 and 60 pages per issue, and every single issue of Prince Nobody is going to be between like 45 and 60 pages. I want it to be a big chunky meal that you feel satisfied with after you finish.
A bit of an epic versus episode is the way I would describe it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
That's very cool. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I'm down. So we know that, well, for those of you that don't know, James works as an EMT in New York. Just in seeing some of the depictions that are going on in Detonator, I was curious, do you feel like your work, your job, had any effect on kind of the grittiness in that like ultra realism that we see in Detonator?
I would say that it's slightly influenced by my job, but I actually started writing Detonator back in, it must have been, I started writing it a long time ago. It must have been 2018. And that was before I started working for the FDNY. But I'll say that my experience working in emergency medicine has definitely kind of influenced Matt, who, for people watching, Matt is a fallen superhero who has become a bit of a recluse after dealing with PTSD and depression. And I'll say that some of the flashbacks that show why he became depressed and traumatized were definitely informed by my experiences working in EMS, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you by any chance happen to know Drew Zucker, who most of you know is the author of Canto? And the big question is, if you do, will there be a future collaboration down the road?
Definitely don't know him, but it's a really cool question, because I read Canto a while back, because I feel like for a while I was just getting bombarded with Canto advertisements on like a few comic websites and on Facebook, and then I saw it on Amazon. I read the first volume, and it was really cool. Like I could see it easily like being a small, like a Pixar movie or something like that. It has a lot of heart, pun intended for fans of the comic. But I actually don't know him. I looked him up on Facebook, and we have some mutual friends in the fire department. So
There you go.
I'm sure that I'll run into him at some point. But I work. I think we work in different boroughs. So
I mean, New York's only like so big, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you're from New York. You know that other guy from New York.
Oh yeah, sure. You know, just one in the many millions.
Yeah, whatever.
What are the odds there are two EMT comic book writers? Like,
It is pretty crazy. So Drew, if you're watching, I would definitely love to nerd out about comics sometime. And maybe discuss a collaboration. Who knows? Let's see what happens.
And we were the ones who inspired it.
Yeah. You guys get all the credit. If we do a book, it'll just say dedicated to Scott and Laura.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there are so many great plans that you have, obviously, with this book, future books that are coming out.
Yeah.
We've asked some, general questions, but is there something else that you want people to know about that obviously we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, you guys have asked a ton of really good questions. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. If you guys haven't watched Laura and Scott's other review of my comic, which made me like as red as a tomato, it was such a great interview, great review. And also a great interview right now. I will tell you that Detonator is a comic that asks the question, what would you do to help your a friend struggling with depression? And our main character, Kaz, decides that what he would do is blow up his friend's house. And it's a weird reaction, but I would say if you want to see why he would do that, to check out my book. And mine and Carlos's book. It's so damn good. We're biased.
I mean, you're biased, yes, but I mean, I told you when you gave us the opportunity to read it was that, we were going to be honest, and we love it. So
Yes.
Thank you. It really means a lot.
You have a lot of fans.
Thank you. I haven't been able to share it with many people, obviously because of COVID.
Wow.
And I was actually, before I did the Kickstarter, I was planning on setting up a table at some Comic-Con in the tri-state area, but I haven't been able to. I haven't been able to reach fans, and it's really nice to finally hear what people think of it.
Well, we will be talking to other people in our area about it, besides those that
Yes.
have watched our video or subscribers. I definitely can't say enough about the book itself. We've done a video review on that. If you haven't checked it out already, do that. Meeting you now in virtual live world has added to my my sense of fandom, because we admire good quality work, but we also like just good people, and you seem like good people, James. So we're looking forward to back in the Kickstarter.
Thank you.
Trying to ramp that up and help with that as well. And whatever comes next, I'm already on board for the fantasy series.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to seeing that come out.
And we'll get to the trade paperback for you.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Hopefully my end game is turning this into a second career, and I want to write like Batman and Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully I could come on here and chat with you guys about that someday.
So cool.
We will be here. We really appreciate your time, and
yeah, me too.
If you all want to check out other works done by James Parrish, I have information down in the description box, link to the Kickstarter that starts July 20th. So don't forget to back it.
If you're not even sure what a Kickstarter is, because we got a couple questions about that, send us a reply in the comments below. We'd be happy to explain it. We've backed several in the past, and we can help you out with that. But definitely keep your eyes peeled for this one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.